My wife cheated with her boss, stole $250, $0 from our joint account to fund their affair, and now she's claiming I secretly forged documents to hide her inheritance. I think our entire marriage was a lie. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. It all started with a gut feeling that something was off, little things at first. Sarah, my wife, had always been a bit of a drama queen, but lately she'd become downright bitchy for no reason, snapping at me over nothing, avoiding me more than usual. She'd come home late from work, and her phone was glued to her hand. I noticed her spending a lot more time on her laptop, always late into the night, locking the screen whenever I'd walk by. But the real shocker hit me out of nowhere. I was going through our bank statements, just trying to get a grip on our finances. Because we'd been talking about buying a new house. That's when I saw it, an unauthorized transfer of $250, $0 from our joint account. I froze. I looked again, thinking maybe I was mistaken, but no, it was real. Someone had stolen a huge chunk of our savings, and I knew somehow it had to be connected to Sarah. She'd always been secretive about money, but I'd never suspected something this big. I started digging into her recent activities, looking for clues. I noticed her credit card statements showed a lot of cash withdrawals, and she'd been making trips to the city, always alone. I tried to confront her once, but she brushed it off like I was overreacting. "You're paranoid," she snapped. "You think I'd cheat on you? You're crazy." But I knew better. The signs were piling up too fast. The late nights, the secretive calls, the strange withdrawals. I was starting to feel sick, like I'd been played for a fool all these years. One night I decided to follow her. She left the house around 9 p.m., acting nervous, and I tracked her to a fancy hotel downtown. I saw her go inside. With someone, I couldn't see who, but I knew it wasn't her boss, Mark, from work. The way she was sneaking around, the way she looked nervous, it all clicked. I felt my stomach drop. I had to see what was going on, even if it meant exposing everything. I waited outside, heart pounding, until she finally came out at 2 a.m. looking flushed but trying to act casual. She got into a cab and left without noticing me lurking behind a corner. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just a fling. It was something serious. And the worst part, the money. She stolen our life savings to fund her affair, and I was just supposed to accept it. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious. How could she do this? How could she lie so effortlessly? I had no choice but to dig deeper, to find out exactly how much she'd taken and what she'd done with it. I knew I needed a plan, but right now, I was just trying to breathe through the shock. The next few days were a blur of rage and disbelief. Every time I looked at Sarah, I saw a stranger, someone I used to love, now a thief and a liar. I couldn't sleep. My mind kept spinning over everything I'd uncovered. I kept asking myself, how did I miss the signs? How did I not see this coming? But deep down, I knew the truth. I'd been blind for too long. She had always been good at hiding her true self behind a pretty face and a bitchy attitude when she didn't get her way. I decided I needed to get concrete evidence before I confronted her again. I started digging through her phone, her emails, anything I could find. That's when I found the emails from her boss, Mark. They weren't just flirty, they were full of plans, promises, and explicit talk about their secret meetings. There were pictures, too, photos of her in hotel rooms, of her and Mark in bed. I felt my stomach turn. The woman I married, the woman I thought I knew, was screwing her boss and stealing from us to fund it. I was furious. I wanted to explode, but I knew I had to stay calm. I needed to confront her with proof, or she'd just deny everything. So I printed all the emails, took screenshots of the photos, and made a detailed timeline. I also found bank records showing the withdrawals she made, cash checks, even some suspicious wire transfers. I had enough to destroy her if I wanted. But I didn't just want to ruin her, I wanted to make her pay. That night I sat her down in the living room, my hands trembling. I laid everything out on the table, the bank statements, the emails, the hotel receipts. Her face went pale. She looked at me with those fake innocent eyes, trying to deny everything. "You're crazy, Jason," she hissed. "You're making this all up." I didn't steal anything. This is just your paranoia. I lost my temper. You stole $250, $0 from us. You lied about your job, your meetings, everything. And you've been screwing your boss, Mark. How long has this been going on? How much money have you taken?" Her voice cracked as she spat back. "You don't understand, Jason. It's not what you think. Mark and I, we're just what?" I cut her off. "Just having sex, or is it more? Did you use our money to fund your little affair?" She started crying, but it was fake crying, the kind that makes your skin crawl. She claimed she was stressed. That Mark was the only one who understood her, that she didn't mean to hurt me. Yeah, right. She told me she needed the money because she was planning to leave her job and start her own business. It was all bullshit. I could see the lie in her eyes. The emotional blow hit me hard. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My wife, the woman I loved, was a cheat, a thief, and a liar. I trusted her with everything, our house, our savings, our future. And now I knew she'd been planning this behind my back for months. The betrayal cut deep. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so naive. I was angry at her, but I was also heartbroken. How could someone I loved do this to me, to us? I told her to leave that night. I couldn't stand to look at her anymore. She packed her things, still claiming innocence, still spinning her tailies. But I knew the truth. The woman I married was a manipulative, money-stealing, cheating bitch. And I was left to pick up the pieces of my shattered life, wondering how I was going to move forward from this betrayal. I felt lost, betrayed, and furious, more furious than I'd ever been in my life. After she left, I sat alone in the house that suddenly felt empty and cold. My mind kept racing over everything I'd uncovered: her affair, the stolen money, the lies. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. It was like waking up from a nightmare I didn't even realize I was in. The betrayal was overwhelming, and part of me just wanted to shut down, to pretend none of this was real. But I knew I had to act. I couldn't let her get away with this, not without consequences. The first thing I did was call my best friend, Mike. I needed someone to talk to, someone who wouldn't judge me or tell me to forgive her. I told him everything: the affair, the money, her lies. Mike was furious too. He told me to get a lawyer and consider going to the police about the theft. I hesitated at first. I didn't want to be that guy, the one who destroys his marriage over a cheating wife. But as I saw the evidence, her emails, the bank transfers, the hotel receipts, I realized I had no choice. She had crossed a line and I had to protect myself. I contacted a lawyer the next day. We went over the evidence and she advised me to gather everything I had: bank statements, emails, texts, anything that proved her guilt. I also started looking into the legal options for reclaiming the money. I knew I couldn't just let her walk away with everything she'd taken. I also needed to do something about her claims that I'd secretly forged documents to hide her inheritance. I didn't even know what she was talking about at first, but it seemed she was trying to spin the story to make me look guilty. I realized she was trying to manipulate the situation, probably to keep her reputation intact or to get some kind of financial advantage. Meanwhile, I kept digging into her financial activities. I found out she opened new credit accounts under fake names, probably to hide the stolen money. Each discovery made my blood boil. How deep did her lies go? How much more had she hidden? I felt like I was unraveling a conspiracy I'd been blind to for years. I also discovered she'd been secretly talking to a lawyer of her own, probably planning her escape or trying to find a way to keep the money. It was clear she had no intention of taking responsibility. She was playing the victim, even as she was the one who betrayed me. The worst part was realizing she had been planning her exit for a long time. She'd even set up a new bank account in her mother's name, where she was funneling some of the stolen cash. It was like she had been preparing for this moment all along. I felt disgusted with myself for trusting her, for believing that we had a real marriage. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. If she was capable of doing all this, then I had to cut her out of my life completely. I couldn't be married to someone who lied, cheated, and stole from me. So I made a decision. I was going to fight back, not just to get my money back, but to put an end to her manipulations. I started drafting a legal plan, gathering all the evidence I had and preparing to confront her again. But I knew this was only the beginning. I had to stay one step ahead because I could tell she was dangerous, and she was willing to do anything to avoid accountability. The betrayal was one thing, but the lies she was spinning now were even more infuriating. I was done being naive. I was done being her pawn. It was time to take control and face whatever consequences came with it. Over the next few weeks, my world turned into a whirlwind of legal meetings, financial reconstructions, and emotional exhaustion. I felt like I was fighting a battle I couldn't see the end of, but I knew I had to keep going. Every piece of evidence I collected only reinforced what I already knew. Sarah was a liar and a thief. She had stolen from us, lied her way through our marriage, and now she was trying to spin stories to cover her tracks. I refused to let her get away with it. One of the most shocking discoveries came when I subpoenaed her phone records. It turned out she'd been talking to her lawyer, an older woman named, who was helping her craft a story to shield her from legal repercussions. I found emails where Sarah was asking about how to hide her assets and whether she could claim she inherited money from her family to explain the large transfers. She was trying to manipulate the system, and I could see right through her. It made me sick to think she'd been planning this all along, even before I caught her. I also found out she'd been secretly transferring money into offshore accounts, a move that told me she was trying to hide her assets from the law and from me. The more I uncovered, the more I realized how deep her deception went. She'd been planning her escape for months, maybe even longer. Every new piece of evidence was like a punch to the gut, but I refused to let her win. I had to get justice, not just for the money, but for the betrayal of everything we had built. Meanwhile, I was also dealing with the emotional toll. I'd loved her once, and even now, a part of me still wanted to believe she could change, that maybe she was just overwhelmed and made a terrible mistake. But then I'd look at the cold, calculated lies she was spinning and realize that this wasn't just some moment of weakness. This was who she was, selfish, manipulative, and willing to destroy everything for her own benefit. That realization hurt more than anything. My friends and family kept telling me I was better off without her, that I deserved someone who wouldn't betray me like this. But hearing that didn't make it easier. I still loved her, or at least I did once. Now I just felt numb. The pain of betrayal was so raw that I didn't know who I was anymore. I kept questioning everything, my judgment, my trust, my marriage. How did I not see this coming? How did I let her manipulate me for so long? Despite all that, I decided I wasn't going to be a victim. I had to fight for what was mine, my money, my dignity, my future. I filed a lawsuit to recover the stolen funds and to freeze her offshore accounts. I also filed for divorce, knowing I had enough evidence to prove her guilt and to get full custody of our joint assets. I wanted her out of my life for good. But I also wanted her to face the consequences of what she'd done. The day I handed over everything to my lawyer, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Relief, because I was finally taking control of the situation. Dread, because I knew this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about trust, betrayal, and the wreckage of a marriage I thought was perfect. I wondered if I'd ever be able to trust anyone again. I wondered if I'd ever truly recover from this. All I knew for sure was that I was done being her fool. From now on, I was going to rebuild my life, less naive, more cautious, and much, much wiser. The court hearings were a nightmare. Sarah showed up with her usual bitchy attitude, trying to play the victim, claiming I was paranoid, that I'd fabricated everything, that she was innocent. She spun her lies with that fake tears, trying to manipulate the judge and everyone else in the room. But I had the evidence, screenshots, bank records, emails, witness statements, and I made damn sure it all got presented clearly. The judge wasn't buying her bullshit. It was obvious she'd been lying her ass off, trying to cover her tracks. The judge ordered her to pay back the entire stolen sum, 250, and froze her offshore accounts. That was a huge win, but it didn't erase the pain. I felt a mixture of relief and emptiness. I had finally taken action, but I knew the emotional scars would take longer to heal. Once the divorce was finalized, I felt a strange sense of liberation, but also a deep sadness. I'd lost the woman I thought I knew, and I'd been betrayed so deeply that I wondered if I'd ever fully recover. I moved out of the house, got a new place, and started piecing my life back together. I cut all contact with Sarah, no more calls, no more messages. I wanted nothing to do with her anymore. Still, I couldn't help but think about all the years I wasted trusting her, believing we had a real future. In the aftermath, I found myself reflecting on everything I'd learned. Trust is fragile, I realized, something you have to protect and verify constantly. I learned that people can hide their true selves behind a mask, and that sometimes the biggest betrayals come from those closest to you. I also learned that standing up for yourself is crucial, even if it means going through hell first. You can't let someone steal your life and get away with it, not without consequences. Most importantly, I learned to be more cautious, more skeptical. I still believe in love, but I now know to guard my heart and my money more carefully. I've started therapy to deal with the emotional fallout, and I've been trying to rebuild my confidence. It's slow, but I'm getting there. The scars will stay, but I refuse to let them define me. I want to trust again someday, but with my eyes wide open. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone in a similar situation, trust your instincts, keep your eyes open, and don't be afraid to fight for what's right. Don't let someone betray you and walk away scot-free. You deserve better. I may have lost a lot, but I gained something too. The knowledge that I'm stronger than I thought, and that I can survive even the worst betrayals. It's a long road, but I'm walking it, and I'm determined to come out the other side better for it. Looking back now, I realize that the worst part of all this wasn't just the money or the betrayal, it was losing the sense of trust I once had. I used to believe that if you loved someone, you could trust them blindly. Turns out that's a dangerous lie. Sarah showed me that sometimes the people closest to you can be the biggest wolves in sheep's clothing. I was naive, thinking I had the perfect marriage. Instead, I was living in a carefully constructed illusion that shattered in a matter of months. The thing is, I don't hate her. Not anymore. I hate what she did, but I've come to accept that she's who she is. A selfish, manipulative person capable of anything if it benefits her. I've learned that you can't fix someone who refuses to see their faults and only cares about themselves. All I can do now is move forward and make sure I never let myself be blind again. I've gone through a lot of therapy, and honestly, it's helped me process everything. I've learned to set boundaries, to be more cautious, and most importantly, to trust myself. I don't want to carry this anger forever, but I also refuse to forget what she did. The betrayal has changed me, but I won't let it define me. I've started focusing on my career, my friends, and rediscovering what it means to be truly happy without someone who lied to my face. One of the hardest lessons I've learned is that sometimes you have to let go of the past entirely, no matter how much it hurts. I can't change what she did, but I can control how I respond. I can choose to be stronger, wiser, and more cautious in the future. I've also learned that revenge isn't always about money or lawsuits. It's about reclaiming your dignity and refusing to be a victim anymore. To anyone out there going through something similar, know that you're not alone. It's okay to feel broken, angry, and betrayed. But don't let those feelings consume you. Find your strength, gather your evidence, and do what you need to do to protect yourself. Justice might not always come from the courts, but standing up for yourself is the first step to healing. I'm still healing, and I probably will be for a long time, but I'm also moving on. I'll never forget what happened, but I refuse to let it destroy me. Life goes on, and I'm determined to rebuild a life that's honest, genuine, and free from lies. Trust is hard to earn again, but I believe I'll get there someday. Until then, I'll keep walking forward, one step at a time, knowing I survived the storm, and I'm stronger because of it.